You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sara J Loureiro.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. Today, I thought it would be fun to talk about how to uplevel quickly. So how to really make big changes in specific in your business that will help you to get results that much quicker. And the reason why I love this topic so much is I think a lot of people just don't realize how many decisions go into being able to scale quickly, being able to grow, being able to get to the point where you can quit your 9-to-5. And I love it. I mean, I love the speed that you can get to. I love high performance coaching. I love high performance in general. I love peak performance. And so this is going to be an episode for all of you who are just like needing that extra energy, needing that higher energy, and just really curious as to like what exactly it takes in order to see results quickly. Another reason why I also wanted to record this episode is because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation and miscommunication that happens online. And basically, what I really want to do is just for anyone who wants to grow and wants to grow quickly, I also want you to see what it is that you need to avoid in terms of the rhetoric that happens in the online space. So the first thing that I would say to avoid is a lot of the mentality of, okay, well, you have a lot of time, like slow down and focus on your self-care first. And I know that this is going to seem very controversial. I love self-care and I only operate my business from a place of self-love. Definitely wasn't always like that, but I 100% believe that you can focus on your self-care and your self-love while running a super successful business. In fact, I don't just believe that. I think that those are non-negotiables. However, there's also a lot of rhetoric online that's just like, sit back and relax, and you really need to focus as much as you possibly can on your self-care all of the time. And it's this myth of zero hustle and zero sacrifice. And in order for you to grow quickly, depending on how much access you have to team, depending on how much access you have to like investments and things like Facebook ads, you're probably going to need to hustle. And you're probably going to need to hustle through specific seasons. I remember I just recently did a summit with one of my previous clients, Morgana, and I love how she said, there was a season where she had her 3 kids and she knew that she couldn't focus all of her time on her kids. She knew that she had to hire out. She knew that she had to really step into the shoes of powerful CEO to really hustle and grow for, I think she said about 4 months. And that's something that's, full transparency on her, which I absolutely loved. And that's something that not too many people are actually talking about. And what I would invite you to do or to understand is that there are going to be seasons of hustle and there are also going to be seasons of flow in your business, especially if you want to grow really quickly. I definitely do not suggest going through the entire year of hustle because you're going to burn yourself out, but going through a few months at a time of hustle is essential. It really is. And once again, this also depends on how much access you have to specific things like teams. So yes, I could work 20 hours a week and own a multiple 6-figure business, but also understand that if I own a multiple 6-figure business, I'm probably investing at least 20 to 30% of that income back into my business, which means that I'm probably investing around $5,000 each and every month into my business, right? And so if you are at the place where maybe you're not even at 6 figures yet and you're thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to get to that level? Also understand that for anyone who's saying that they're doing this with a whole bunch of flow, it's also because they're investing heavier amounts into their business and into team and outsourcing a lot of stuff. that you might not want to outsource right now, and that's totally fine. You always either have more time or more money, and you need to decide which one of those is worth the most to you at this specific point in time in your business. And so I would argue that in the beginning, you often have more time unless you have a really great 9-to-5 or a really great amount of savings where you can also put a whole bunch of money into your business. And that's also not to say that if you don't have a great 9-to-5 and if you don't have savings, you can't just outsource immediately. You totally can. But everyone has a different risk level in their business. And in order for you to really grow, you need to accept the fact that all business comes with risk. I think another thought process and mentality that's really tied into this is the whole idea that you're being too hard on yourself. And I know that a lot of people used to tell me this, and it's because they just don't understand what a person with high amounts of drive and motivation really feels like. And if you can separate your high amounts of drive and motivation from any type of self-sabotage and shame, you're automatically going to be a step ahead of other people who aren't as self-aware of really just like how much shame they carry and how much of the inner work they haven't done yet. This is why I also love coaching so much, because so much of the inner work really dictates how we show up in our businesses. And so going back, you're going to want to drop the idea that you're being too hard on yourself. Or that you're going to get extremely overwhelmed. That's another huge myth, once again, is this whole idea that like, if you go into business and if you go all in, you're always going to burn out. Like everyone burns out. It's so not true. And as long as you have established your own self-care practices, as long as you have established and done that inner work, you're going to know where your limits are. And I've seen this time and time again when I've had clients who are like, oh, I'm just so afraid of getting overwhelmed. I'm so afraid of doing too much work. My client, Jacqueline, was like that. She came to me. She was making $2,000 a month. She was so afraid of being overwhelmed. And that was one of her big blocks for really being able to double and triple and even quadruple that income, which we did together throughout our time working together. So she went from $2,000 months to then $6,000 months. And then she's like, oh, you know what? I'm actually not overwhelmed at all. Of course, if you're a high performer and a high achiever, you're always going to have times in your business where you're going to be at that tipping point, like of, okay, if I continue this way, I'm going to be burnt out. And that's totally normal. And I don't really feel like you can avoid that by any means. But as long as you understand there's seasons of hustle, there's seasons of flow, you've got this. I mean, she went from $6,000 months to now she's making consistent $10,000 months and above. And she actually added more work to her plate. But the biggest difference there as well is that she started to learn how to outsource more in her business, which was a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. So that's essentially the first myth, this whole idea that if you are doing too much, if you're working too much, you're going to be hustling too much, you're going to get overworked, you're going to get overwhelmed, you're not going to take care of yourself, you're not going to love yourself. And it's this whole, what I always say is that we all exist on a continuum of being too hard on ourselves and not being hard enough. And I feel like the internet sometimes wants to go into the space of like, okay, you're being way too hard on yourself. And then what I see, unfortunately, is a lot of people kind of going into the space of we're not being hard enough. And what happens when you go into the space of I'm not being hard enough is you're not working smarter. You're taking a lot of time off. And a lot of the time off also comes with its own procrastination and the reason why you're taking that time off. And a lot of the times our brains can be like, oh, it's because I feel like I might be overworked. But what I've come to see, especially from working with so many high achievers, is that fear of being overworked is actually a fear of success. And a lot of the times it's also a fear of judgment that's coming up. Once again, I'm going to go back to my client, Jacqueline, just because I feel like she was such a great example of this, but she still gets to walk her dog 3 times a day. She still gets to take really amazing breaks. She still gets to socialize with her friends on the weekend. She still gets to travel. She gets to do all of these things while making these $10,000 months versus before she started working with me, she was really afraid of being overwhelmed and overworked. So that's proof that you can have it all. And the second really big myth about getting results quickly, and I think that this is going rampant online as well, and it kind of is very similar, is this whole myth of zero hustle, but also you can energetically change everything. So everything is about your energy, and all you need to do is just, like sit there and meditate, and people are going to come to you. And I've heard this so much from so many of my clients. They're just like, I want people to come to me. I don't want to have to go to them. And then they start going into this other scenario where they're just like, okay, how do I get more people to come to me? And so they're doing all of this law of attraction work. They're doing all of this mindset work, which is great, but they're not doing anything in their business. And when you're not doing the things in your business that are going to bring your business forward, like lead generation, like content creation, like event planning, like selling, you're not going to see those results. And I think that energetic work is so beautiful and so necessary, and so is your mindset work. But if you are putting all of your eggs in the energetic and mindset baskets, you're not going to have any strategy, and business needs strategy to thrive. And so when I see people saying, okay, well, I want to, make $20,000 months, but I don't want to do, and then they list like 10 different things that they don't want to do. I only want to do this in an aligned way. My question is always like, okay, well, is this an alignment issue or is this actually a fear issue? Because I think that this is a huge myth. And I've seen it time and time again where people are making so much money, but then they're on the front end of their marketing, they're saying, I made all this money only because I believed in myself, or only because I changed my energy. And it's just like, well, no, you also hired a social media manager to, drastically increase the amount of followers that you had, right? Like that was a strategy. You weren't able to sell and make millions of dollars from being online just by leveling up your energy and having, the Facebook algorithms or the Instagram algorithms naturally bringing all these people to you. Please don't buy into that myth because it's not true, right? There's a specific level of strategy that people use, whether it's PR, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's having someone work 24/7 on their Instagram accounts, that makes other people take notice of them. And it really has nothing to do with, sorry to say, but it really has nothing to do with the Instagram algorithms or the Facebook algorithms. That type of marketing has really come and gone, unfortunately. And it's just going to continue to keep you stuck if you keep on feeling like, okay, I just need to change my energy. And of course, I've talked about this in previous podcast episodes too, but when you think that everything's about your energy, you automatically think there's something wrong with you as well. And so that tends to create an identity crisis. And it creates a lot of pressure on you as a person, versus if you start to understand and really put a lot of the onus on a business strategy, then that's something that's outside of you, right? Then that really doesn't have anything to do with you as a person. It's just a strategy that we're getting into or bringing into a business. So I hope that all of this has made sense so far. I feel like I needed to start this episode with all of these things just because of the fact that I have seen people get into these spaces of like, oh, well, I just need to change my energy. I don't want to work too hard, or if I work too hard, or if I make this amount of money, I'm going to get overwhelmed. These are all things that are going to keep you playing small. And I would even go so far as to say this is like the overly feminine marketing that's been happening online. And once again, I love feminine energy and I love that aspect of marketing. But if we're not also focusing on the masculine, then we're not going to get so far, right? So because they both need to have their unique dance in each and every one of our businesses, and of course also in our lives. Okay, now let's step into the energy of what it really takes to get those results quickly. So now that I talked a little bit about what I consider to be myths in the online space in terms of how to uplevel, here's the two things that I really do feel like have helped me every single time. And the first thing is really getting into the vibe and really getting into the energy of being extra. And the reason why I say this is because entrepreneurs are a little bit crazy. Okay. So if you have a goal of hitting $250,000, $500,000, $1 million a year, even six figures, like, for a lot of people, you're considered crazy, right? a lot of people just don't really understand that concept. They don't understand the concept of how you can make money online. A lot of people are just kind of like, okay, well, but the 9 to 5 is really safe and that's totally fine. And what you have to understand is that there's a specific level of crazy that you have inside of you that you need to be unapologetic for. And that's really what I mean when I say go extra, because your brain is probably going to constantly try to really bring you down into everyone else's level of, okay, let's just be safe. Let's just do the things that keep us safe, that keep us secure. And which is totally fine, once again, for all those people. But if it's not fine for you, then it's time for you to step into that vibe of extra. I am extra, and maybe I'm a little bit sassy. Maybe I'm a little bit crazy. I have these really crazy goals and I'm going to be unapologetic about them. So that self-acceptance of the drive that you have to really hit higher goals is in and of itself energizing. Once you accept that part of yourself and once you're just like, you know what? This is what I want to do. And I get it. And I get that it's scary. And I get that a lot of people don't understand it, but I don't care. This is who I am, right? And this is my goal. And I'm sure that you've heard the saying, shoot for the moon and you'll land amongst the stars, which is actually not true because the stars are further away from the moon, right? But that whole idea of shoot farther than what you even think possible for yourself, and you'll land somewhere that you didn't even expect to either. I think it's just such a beautiful concept of understanding that that is your goal and you're just going to be unapologetic about it. This is honestly something that I've had to come to terms with time and time again and really push myself towards, because I didn't come from a really wealthy family. And I also didn't come from, even in my 9 to 5, no one had these like grandiose dreams for themselves either. And for me to constantly be around a circle of people who weren't really thinking bigger, it was hard for me to acknowledge that that's something that I wanted, which is also why hanging out with people and spending time with people who have really big dreams is so helpful. So I don't know if you've heard this before, but you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, or the 5 people that you exchange the most time with, I would say. It doesn't have to be in person. It definitely isn't for me in person. But if you can start to surround yourself with people who also think big like you, which is why masterminds are just so incredible, you will feed off of each other's energy, and that energy will start to become normal. That will start to become the norm. 6 figures, 7 figures will start to become the norm for you versus being around people who don't think that anything like that is possible. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to stop spending time with your mom or, cut cords with your best friend. It just means that you want to introduce more people in your life who are thinking bigger. And that could be friends who are online. It could be a WhatsApp conversation that you have with a friend. It could be a group coaching program that you join. These are such great ways to really step into that energy. And the next thing here is to take risks and understand that you're going to have to continue taking risks as long as you're in business and as long as you still want to see incredible growth. And also understand that risks are, inherently risky, right? Not every single business decision that you are going to make is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. But the only way that you know that is if you go and take those risks to begin with. And so this is one of the biggest things that really makes people play small and stay small, unfortunately, is this idea that they always want to be super, super safe and secure. It's just kind of like, I've seen this time and time again. I don't have money to invest in my business, even though they have savings, or even though they have a line of credit, or even though they have stocks that they can sell for it. And the thing is, that whole mentality of I don't have money to invest in my business is a really broke mentality, because the fact is your business needs money to grow. You need investments to grow, whether those are investments in coaches, the investments in done-for-you services, investments in platforms. Realistically speaking, most businesses require between 20 and 30% of what it is that they make to go back into their operating costs, to go back into their marketing costs, to go back into their growth. There are a lot of businesses that only profit 50% of their earnings, because by the time that they, let's say, for example, make 7 figures, they're paying $500,000 to their team, which once again, that is not uncommon. That is not uncommon. That's not a way that I choose to operate in my business. I love to keep mine in a healthy between like 20 and 30% is something that I consider really healthy. But if you're not willing to invest in your business, then you're probably not ready for your next income level. And this is, I think, one of the things that a lot of people don't fully understand. And the ones that do, and the ones who get it, and the ones who invest, and the ones who invest before they're ready, those are the people who see the outstanding results. Because I can tell you in so many different circumstances when I've looked at specific programs that I wanted to take, and I will try to talk myself out of it over and over and over again. And I'll try to be like, no, I can do it on my own. No, I don't really need to do that right now. No, the money needs to go to this other place. But at the end of the day, the investments that I do make isn't because I have the money in my bank account or because I have the money somewhere. It's because I know that that investment is going to get me to the next level. And when I know that, and when I understand that I need to make that investment, the money part is completely irrelevant, because I need to start making decisions from a place of where I want to go versus the place that I currently am. And if I don't believe that I can get to that next level, if I don't believe that I can really, if I don't believe that this investment is going to help me get to that next level, then I don't believe that I can even get to that next level. I'm no longer putting the belief in myself. I'm no longer putting the belief in the goal that I have. I might as well just shrink my goal. And so if you want to create bigger goals, and if you actually want to crush those bigger goals, you absolutely need to start thinking from a place of, where do I want to be, and how are these investments going to help me get to where I want to be, and make a decision from that place. And this is the single greatest thing I have ever done in my business. If anyone wants to know how to be successful, the number one rule is literally this: make decisions based on where you want to go, not where you are now, and take those risks. I could say that over and over and over again. I have done this for myself over and over and over again. And until you learn that, and until you fully process that and fully implement it in your business, you're probably not going to see those quick results. Okay. So let's kind of just wrap some of this up. You are a high achiever. You have big goals for yourself. This is probably why you've been listening to this podcast episode. I think I calculated between 2017 and 2020, 7 times my income. Okay. And that would probably have been ludicrous to me in 2017, that in 3 years I was going to 7x my income. But it happened as a result of constantly putting myself in these areas of discomfort, constantly taking these risks that I talked about in this podcast episode, and constantly just acknowledging how much I wanted that, unapologetically really reframing my mindset around what investments were, what it really felt like, how to let go of that guilt of wanting more. And if you are listening to this right now, and if you are one of those people who's a really high achiever and who's just I really, really want this for myself, you have to stand behind it 100%, because that guilt and that worthiness, those two pieces are always also going to be confronting you of okay, well, why do you even need this? Why do you even want this, right? Be unapologetic about it. Take risks and make decisions based on where you want to go. And I would also say that in order to do this quickly, which is another big piece of this episode, is make sure that you are doing this consistently. And if you want quick, then you're also going to have to be on a faster timeline in terms of your decisions. And if you're on a faster timeline in terms of your decisions, once again, this also runs into the whole idea of the overwhelm and the self-care and the understanding that you're going to have a season of hustle while also having seasons of flow. But if you need to have that season of hustle, understand that that's the sacrifice that you're going to have to, let's say you sacrificed and you invested and you just went all in for 6 months out of 2022. by 2023, you'll have doubled your income. And wouldn't that have been worth it for you? Right? Wouldn't it have been worth it for you to finally make more of an impact, finally get more in front of more of the right people? And that's where you want to lead. That's how you want to make your decisions, not from the place of where you are, the place of where it is that you truly want to go and how it's going to feel to be there, regardless of what it took to get there. And once again, not talking about burning yourself out, but really acknowledging how much strength you have and acknowledging that you're much stronger than you think you are. And you can totally do this, and you can totally make these risks work for yourself. So everyone always asks me this question: how do I do this? How do I see results so quickly? How have I doubled my income? All of that kind of stuff. This is it. It's all in this one episode. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know what you liked about it. You can leave a comment or subscribe. It would mean the world to me if you shared this with someone who also needs to hear it. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarajloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.